Practice. As we all know, practice makes a man perfect. If we keep practicing, we are going to excel. As a student, the biggest challenge we face is the exams. Students who score good grades are generally who practice. There are subjects where understanding is required, but by practicing, you can fill up your memory microtubes. Mathematics, physics, and chemistry, numericals, drawing, paintings, all these needs practice. Without practice, you cannot master. Music, playing instruments, or singing requires tremendous practice. If you ask any maestro about the success, answer will be practice. The more you practice, the more good you become. Now, when we know that practice is the key, then why don't we practice? Why we cry on the result and do not practice studies? When we know that by practice we can score good grades, but even then we do not practice, we pay attention to where a good tutor is available, we look for best coaching center and pay hefty fees, and the results are not as per the expectations. What is the reason behind it? We spend lot of time in catering facilities rather than practicing. Why we are reluctant to practice? One of the answers is lack of interest. Lack of interest is usually due to lack of understanding. One side we want good grades and on other side we are unwilling to practice. It means our will to do get good grades is weaker than the practice. We want to go to Meroli but are not willing to move. Unless you move, how you will reach Meroli? You have to move to reach Mehroli. If this is the situation that you need good grades but are unwilling to practice, then it is sure that you cannot get good grades. Practice is mandatory to get good grades. Either you understand this or forget about it. Thus, understanding of the requirement is important to get the desired results. Mere buying a bicycle cannot take you to Central Park. You have to ride the bicycle to reach to Central Park. There are many students who compel their parents for best table, best stationery, best air conditioned room, best school, best tutor, best coaching centers. But when it comes for practicing, they are either busy in WhatsApp, Facebook, chatting, they have time for everything except practicing studies. Sports person need continuous practice to stay fit in their sports. Practice is a mandatory requirement. If you do not practice, you cannot play the game. You will be disqualified in the preliminary selection criteria itself. A player has no option except to keep practicing the game. In life of a sports person, it is a lifetime affair. In China, many start practicing game at a tender age of 5 onwards. After rigorous practice sessions for almost 14 years, they start playing games in international matches. In Olympics, they win considerable amount of gold medals. The harder a player practices, the more confident a player becomes in the game, and the chances of winning gold become stronger. Practice is a matter of devotion and dedication. Can there be any sports person without practicing the game? In normal day to day life, also, you need to practice. If you are a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, practice is a must. When you pass university exams and get a degree, you become a graduate or postgraduate. But to practically work in particular profession, you need skill. Skill is developed by repeatedly doing and learning a task. In the journey of life, skill development is a continuous process. The more you practice, the more skill is developed. A professional who has more number of years experience attract more clients. A lawyer with 20 years of experience will get more clients than a lawyer with practice of 2 years. The more is the number of years practice, the more clients have confidence in them. Similarly, an engineer who has more practice of designing instruments will have more offers from the companies. It is practice only which converts a normal person into an important person. A normal person's story lacks adequate practice. As a student, they look for excuses. When there will be pin drop silence, then they will study. When there will be no visitor in the home, then they will study. When there is an air conditioner in room, then they will study. Or else they have a particular guidebook, then they will study. The list of demand keeps increasing as the exam days approach nearer. They look for favorable conditions in order to pursue studies as if they are doing some obligation on parents. They do not practice studies. They do not have regular routine. They know themselves that unless they start practicing mathematics, numericals, etc., they cannot get good grades. But even after knowing this, they look for lame excuses. They feel lazy when the time for practicing studies arrives. They feel sleepy and energyless. One must understand that without practice, nothing can be achieved in this world. Even where there are no studies, there are also practices must. Let it be sports, farming, acting, painting, singing, etc. In fact, in these, practice required is more. Thus, you should convince your mind that you cannot escape practice in any way if you really want to become an important person and want to have name in the society. Lack of practice leaves a person behind, and then entire life these people spend in doing petty jobs. Survival becomes an issue, and a precious life is wasted in mundane affairs of livelihood. If a person can understand this thing at the right time, then one can save his life and make his life. Else you have nothing except repenting. If you don't have the habit of practice, start practicing now before it is too late.